with any risk thoughts of her own, so she's participating today from home. I just spoke with Jim White. He is in North Carolina. He drove there yesterday, and he is on a well-earned vacation. And I said, no need to pick up the phone and try to call in. So that's a good plan. Javier is probably up to his eyeballs in military formations right now. Wishing he was someplace cooler than where he is, but that's okay. Elliot is going to be arriving a few minutes late. Leah is not going to be calling in probably. She said she might make it at the very end. That point having been said, I think we'll go ahead and call it to order with a pledge of allegiance. We'll do the roll call, establish the fact that we have a quorum, and we will then begin our business. If you all would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our guest, David, we're going to stare at your back, sir. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I think we have one more coming. Is he with us?
So nice.
Yes. I'm sure it was yours.
I would like to welcome our guest today from Kindred Hospice, David Mills, former Navy chaplain. I just very quickly discerned that myself here as we were talking, but we look forward to hearing from David in a few minutes. Welcome aboard, sir. Good to have you here. Eddie, could you please conduct a roll call?
Airborne. Okay, we know Javier is not here. Javier is not here. Matthew, right? Present. Nancy Moore.
Present.
Leah McGrath. Tiffany.
Here.
Jim White. Jim White. George. Here. Nicole's not here. Elliott's not here.
No, Nicole is there. Nicole is there.
Nicole, you're here. Thank you very much, Eddie. I hear you now. I don't see you, but I hear you. Yes, ma'am. And Aaron.
Present.
And I'm here as well.
Thank you very much. With that roll call being taken, we do have a quorum so we can conduct business. Thank you all for being here. I know as we get deeper into the summer months, we're going to run into the risks of more and more competitive things taking up our time. So I'm very grateful that you all, whether you're calling in Nicole as you are from home, want to avail ourselves of the camaraderie, the fellowship, and also the ability to conduct business with all creative minds present and accounted for as well as we can do it. Mackenzie, I'd like to thank you for all of your support right off the bat to make us work as well as we do. Thank you for all the admin you do. Can you please tell us something about this building and how you will be using it in the near future?
Yeah, so I think all of you are aware that we are reconstructing City Hall, so the building behind us will be coming down. This building is staying, and so Jordan, who's been working on our relocation and displacement for our meetings, has said that they're going to target this building as our main meeting place for the Armed Services Commission meetings. So unless told otherwise, this is where we'll probably be for the foreseeable future.
Through the winter, when those will be turned off and we will be huddled masses in the cold.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Keep that in mind coming up. This is our home for a while. Thank you, Mackenzie. Had the opportunity to receive from Mackenzie the minutes from our meeting on June 8th. I am presuming that everybody's had the opportunity to review them and read them. I got down to the bottom and noticed the note from Tiffany this morning, and I said, Mackenzie, what do we know about that? She said, you just heard, and it's on the agenda. So I have read these, and I hope everyone else has. Could I please receive a motion regarding the minutes and accepting them as submitted? So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Is there a second? George? Thank you very much. Having been recommended and seconded, can I have a vote, please, to accept the minutes as submitted? Any opposed? Thank you very much. Second item of business on our agenda. This is probably, to me, one of the most important pieces of paper we're holding in recent weeks, and that is the lineup where all of us are slated against things that we have volunteered to participate in, support, or volunteered to support in the form of actually leading an element of our mission. In light of the fact that we have received it today, and Mackenzie sent us an email that basically said open at your own risk because of formatting and such like that, I would like to request that everyone review this list and within a week, by middle of next week, review it, see if it's what you're expecting yourself to be aligned with for positioning. And then what will happen is Eddie, Elliot, and I will brainstorm, and we will deconflict wherever possible. When we have multiple people, let's say, volunteering to be a leader, we'll go ahead and say for the next 6 months, this is who we've selected from amongst the people who have volunteered. And that way we at least have an organization going forward so that if something comes up for the foreseeable future, we know who the lead person is to be able to go ahead and further delegate it down into his or her committee work. That okay with everyone? Okay. So please review this. Look familiar at yourself. Make sure you're where you think you are. If you want to adjust it, please get back to Mackenzie, and if you could please complete that by next Wednesday, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Okay. Any comments about these two items that we've covered in terms of the meeting location and what we're trying to do to get ourselves organized? We have a little bit of a respite here between Memorial Day and Veterans Day in terms of sequential events. And I think this will be a good time for us to build some of our administrative infrastructure, get some of the good conversation going that we want rather than just keeping up with things that are coming our way. I hope that everyone shares that degree of optimism.
In that same vein as we're talking about kind of admin and trying to put ourselves together.
Sure.
And you just said that there's a lull between now and Veterans Day. Should we be considering saying or doing anything for September 11th?
Well, this is our first crack at it, Tiffany.
Correct.
My gut reaction immediately, defensively, offensively, is to say, what do you think? Since you raised it. And I also am mindful of the fact that Elliot's here representing the city in a formal capacity. It would be an opportunity for us to perhaps make a public statement from the city, from the FASC, acknowledging the holiday. But I think in this instance, we don't want to necessarily get out in front of the city because the city may have something to say.
And I'm not thinking anything big. I love
Yep.
Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
Yep.
But even just a statement or something like that.
Yeah,
What do you think, Elliot?
two comments. One, a little bit of context. So last year was obviously the 20th anniversary of the events of September 11th. And so the city did two activities on that day. We held a 5K, fun run's not the right phrase for it, obviously, but a run similar to the Tunnel to Towers run that they held in New York City for a number of years. Following that, to honor the firefighters that ran towards that. So we did that last year with some commemorative t-shirts for folks, and we had an event on the stage behind us. I actually spoke at it as the guest speaker, if you will. Then we had kind of an all faiths ceremony. We had 10 or 11 different multi-faith prayer type of scenario. It was nice. It was sparsely attended. It was on a Saturday or Sunday evening on September 11th. But we felt it was appropriate, given the 20th anniversary, to do something a little more than a public statement. I think if I can offer what this group should consider is absolutely should do something, I think. But I would look to this group for the strategic communication of what the city should put out, right? So what are the kinds of dates or events that the FAST would say, hey, city officials, we believe it's the right thing for the city to make a public statement. And what fashion? Is it a press release? Is it a tweet? Is it a Facebook posting? Is it all things in between? So I think that's part of our responsibility is to provide that direction for the city.
Okay. Elliot, that's really expert guidance, man, for us. I thank you for that perspective. Any other thoughts on this? Because we do have a little bit of time to get our arms around this, and rather than spin our wheels, I think if we begin to go ahead and put some of these subcommittees within our structure to work, we might be able to build some of this administrative infrastructure that the city expects us to do.
I think more importantly, just to hear we actually address that question to the police chief and the fire chief. First of all, I think they are probably the key people to comment on that further. Person. Many times we kind of take the step because we are all military people ourselves and all. But the key back then was really the
First responders.
Exactly. Yeah. So we should probably talk to Chief, Jim Parks.
Tiffany, we're going to be gathering you've invited some. Yeah, on the 21st, right?
Correct.
Would you care to speak to that occasion just for a moment in front of everyone? Because this might be an opportunity to pigeonhole those two gentlemen and say, let's set up a meeting.
Sure. So next Thursday at the RQAW rooftop, Fishers GOP is hosting a police and fire update with Chief Gephardt and Chief Arusa, fire department chief and the police chief. And they were with us a year ago, and it's one of the better meetings that we do, just understanding what's going on with crime, what our firefighters are responding to, what some of the needs are in the community, and of course how to stay safe. So it was a great meeting, and so we just try to do it once a year. But definitely we can have a conversation with them about what they'd like to see and how we can support them. Yeah, or invite them to the meeting or whatever you think is best. I defer to you. I love when I don't have to do the thing.
Well, maybe what we could do is we could pigeonhole them, ask if we could get together with them, and maybe Eddie and I and you, or whatever, get together with them at a time that they find mutually agreeable. Maybe we can bring a recommendation to the commission next month.
Sounds perfect.
Okay. Elliot, I'm going to ask you a judgment question here. We're attending. We have the opportunity to attend that event as private individuals. If the Democratic leadership group for the county had that kind of a meeting, we would be perhaps invited to attend, and we would go. And when we are there, we're private citizens. Is that the distinction we want to make, so there's no perception
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
of conflict of interest?
Good.
Okay. So, regardless of your political persuasion, if Tiffany extends that invitation to all of us to attend for the purpose of being supportive of these two very important gentlemen, it's our prerogative to go as private citizens. We'll be there without our name tags on, so to speak.
And really just learn more about your community.
Yep.
You live in Fishers.
Yeah.
You can learn more about them as well. I drove the two gentlemen.
Yeah, they're pretty false.
Yes, it was Britain Falls. Chief Gephardt sat on the back, on the trunk lid of this convertible, and the fire chief sat next to me, and I drove and I led the parade. Second year I've driven this year. The car that they rode in and the car that I drove was a $330,000 Bentley.
Oh, wow.
I gotta tell you, that's a whole new driving experience, believe me. Even though I never got above 10 miles an hour. The draw his gun on me if I wanted to be faster. The chief and I are very good friends. And I got to drive these guys, and I'll tell you what, they're good together. They really are.
Sure. It's great. Well, along those same lines, I acknowledge the fact that I've already answered up to Tiffany that I'll be at that meeting. Eddie, you and I can talk offline however we want to do it, but anybody who wants to go there to receive that update, it'd be great to see you all there. And again, that starts at 6:30?
We gather at 6, formally starts at 6:30.
Okay. thank you very much, Tiffany. If
Well-
anybody has not yet received that invitation from Tiffany, I'm sure she sent it to you.
I'll put it on our email. And-
Okay,
And I, regardless of my political affiliation, you're invited, so.
very good, thank you. Okay, any other comments on the administrative items that we've covered so far?
I'd like to piggyback on Tiffany there.
Yeah.
Because there is an important date in between here and Veterans Day, it's October 13th. Are we gonna do anything to recognize the branch of service birthdays?
Another good question, another first time
The
around.
October 13th, it's,
Uh,
birthday is it, Marine Corps? Maybe,
Navy. Oh, yeah.
the Navy's birthday,
Well, everybody's gonna have one coming up.
yeah.
So, as I think about the spirit of what it is that we can do that is absolutely with no controversy, we could extend, public greetings acknowledging the whatever number birthday of that branch of the service. Having said that, Elliot, perhaps this could be something that we bring up with Ashley when we get together and talk about what the best method would be.
100%, and I think that's, on this longer actions related to recognizing significant military events. I think that's, again, this group's goal is to come up with what are those events that we care about. I think the birthday is absolutely, are a big deal. I know my Marine Corps brethren take that very seriously, as well as branches. And so again, I think it is important for us, this group, to identify what events we want to communicate, and what is our communication strategy. So then when you have something to come forward with, you take that to actually our communications team, make sure it aligns with the city's communication strategy. We can start popping these things off, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's a great call out. I think it is an event we should cover in some form of fashion. We might have to make the sauce a little bit, figure out what we're talking about.
Yeah.
No better branch to start with.
Wow.
So what date are you talking about?
October 13th.
Well, September 18th is the Air Force birthday, and so I will sponsor the cake on that one. So,
November the 10th is the Marine Corps birthday, and now, however, I was in the Navy, and I still gravitate.
You get to eat
towards-
cake
Sun's
twice.
Tavern, right? Philadelphia.
Okay, so this is the good-natured banter of what we are all about inside the ranks of our organization. And I think it's a wonderful idea, and I'm just gonna tell you what just came off in my mind, and I know this is gonna be difficult to do, but we might want to have, as a commission, a day-long informal day of friendship, camaraderie, and we just sit down and we kind of go through this stuff and we kind of work our way through it and say, you know what, we ought to be cranking that out, because I have felt very respectfully to Mackenzie's work to get all of our inputs. Until I've seen this document, I know where we're all sort of leaning and wired. I've been somewhat reluctant to begin to over-engineer what we do with everything that's on our plate. But now that we are beginning to see who's willing to step up to be responsible for particular functions and who's willing to serve associated with that function, I think we're right on the cusp of being able to work a lot of this administrative stuff out. I don't know if it's going to take the form of a notebook with tabs on it, probably so, that we end up creating from whole cloth, you know? I'll be thinking about that out loud and with Betty and with Elliot too. I think adult beverages go real well with stuff like this. And we can enjoy a day of fellowship at the same time we're working on some of these angles together.
Can you start tonight?
Go, George.
If you haven't been to an Army ball, you haven't had a party, so maybe we ought to let the Army take the lead on that, you know?
Done deal.
Okay. All right. Anything else along the lines of what Matt just raised? Service birthdays, 9/11, take a look at a calendar, tagging things we ought to be paying attention to. Any other thoughts that have just sort of popcorned out as you've been listening to this?
Do you, Al, one of the things I do is I love Reach Across America, and the one that I've done here is always the one at Crown Hill Cemetery. I don't know what amount of need that the city of Fishers would have, or if there's somewhere in Fishers to honor.
To get us all on
At
the
that
same
kind of
page,
year.
Nick, can you brief us a little bit about what you are envisioning Reach Across America, could you describe that so we're all on the same page?
Sure. Reach Across America is where every year they have Christmas wreaths. The one at Crown Hill Cemetery, the wreaths are sponsored and volunteers go out and they have, the last few years they've had a senator spoken, and then they have maybe someone from the military, and then they lay at Crown Hill Cemetery, they lay a wreath for each of the branch of services that there are. And it's just a way to honor those who have fallen and are no longer with us. And they take and throughout Crown Hill Cemetery, they go and lay these wreaths on the graves of the fallen.
Nick, I believe that they do it at every veteran cemetery in the country. And with particular note, Arlington Cemetery, they lay over 220,000 wreaths every Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's amazing. So I don't know if there's anywhere in Fishers.
Well, the national, I don't know if it's the nearest or it's the only national cemetery in Indiana, but it's up in, is it Kokomo? Where there's a national cemetery?
It's Marion.
Is it Marion? And then it's just been announced that Crown Hill is going to have a new national cemetery within it. And it's going to be for approximately 250 to 260,000 cremated remains.
Wow.
They do have a veterans military section in Crown Hill already.
They
Yes.
do.
It's
Mm-hmm.
full.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want anybody to stop speaking up for the sake of what I'm about to say next, but Nick, since you raised this issue, could you flesh this out just a little bit for us and maybe do a little bit of research and bring it to us, and we'll see how that fits into the duties and responsibilities line up. But right now, I think you're demonstrating just a thinking heart. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Okay? And don't anybody hesitate to bring up an idea, but you might own it as soon as you open your mouth, because it's a great place to start, okay? Okay, thank you, Nick, appreciate that. All right, having wrapped that up, then it's time to hear from our guest, David Mills from Kindred Hospice. Tiffany, would you please give a little background to everyone? I know you brought this idea up, but what's the fuel behind the fire?
Sure. So I was invited to a meeting maybe 2 months ago. Scott Willis invited me. Jennifer retired. Invited me to a meeting, and they had a gentleman come and talk about hospice services for veterans, older veterans who are passing away, and opportunities for us to. And there's 2 different programs. There's one that they do at Kindred, and then there's this national 501c3 where they do ceremonies for veterans. They acknowledge them. They give them blankets. They have like ceremonies like in their front yard just to commemorate and thank them for their service. But what we have the opportunity to do here locally is to partner with Kindred, our local nursing home, and to understand the needs that they have with their veterans who are in the facility and veterans who are in hospice. So I figured if there was a gap between veterans participating at Kindred, what better group to have him present to than the Armed Forces Commission.
That's excellent. And you extended the invitation?
Yes, sir.
David, Shumate, it's a pleasure to have you here. The floor is yours, sir.
It's quite a send-up from the bus drivers, thank you. I think maybe the best way I can explain what we do and how you can contribute to it is just to do this. I apologize that the screen's not bigger. I'm sure you've seen this picture before. This is September 2, 1945. Deck at the USS Missouri battleship.
Roger that.
2 years ago in Lyons, Michigan, we had a patient who, if I was talking to a doc, I would say he was not fully alert or oriented. Couldn't tell me the day of the week, couldn't tell me where he was. Oh, this is my good side. I don't have you. Oh, good. That's my best.
That's way everybody likes it, right?
Yeah. This is a patient who cognitively just could not live independently anymore. And in a routine encounter with him, I noticed he had a coffee table book laying in front of him. It was in Missouri. So I said, just to make conversation, I said, you know the Missouri? And he started running names, and it was all prefaced by BB 63. And he could remember the roster from 1945. So I said to him, where were you in September of 1945? He said, I was top of Battery A. We had cream in our coffee, fresh cream for the first time in months. They did that because the brass came on board. They made us wear our Class A's. We got real eggs. His family didn't know that he had ever done that. I mean, here he was standing on the forward turret while the Japanese come on board. There's Dougie Parker out front. Army guy, what do you say? And he is a part of history, and nobody knew it. Now, I think that says a lot about the veteran experience. In clinical gatherings, we talk about it as the Red Bull effect. If you've gone through MCRD, if you've been at Fort Leonard Wood, if you've been deployed, if you've been away from your family for a while, if you've had drummed into your head on a regular basis, your identity is your mission. That doesn't go away. That sinks down into the very bones of who you are. And we bring that point of view to all of our patient care. To be perfectly honest, we do this with all of our patients. We believe that people die the way they live. And if we understand who they are, we not only honor who they are, but we're able to join them in that experience and frame it in such a way that it's meaningful to them. Another story like this, I think most of us are familiar. In fact, it's going up in Washington right now, the new Eisenhower Monument, and it shows Ike on the eve of D-Day. He's talking to some members of the 101st Airborne. Most of us look at Ike, and we look at the guy immediately across from Ike who's got the Screaming Eagle patch, but there's a guy who's standing between them in the background who looks like he's maybe 12 years old. He was one of our patients, and when it came for him to make his end, the way he described it was, I want to make the last big jump. And he was drawing on what he had experienced not only back in 44, but how that metaphor had translated over into the rest of his life. We want to do this with every one of our patients, whether they're veterans or not, but we particularly pay attention to it with veterans because the experience that they have has Red Bull in them. They carry that with them. The jokes that we make at one another's expense, the stuff that we do, is all an expression of that. We think that that really is at the core of what we do. Now, there are two ways in particular that we like people to come along our clinical teams and help us do this. We all know, and I think one of the reasons we're joking so freely in this room is we recognize each other as vets. We have an automatic relational bridge to one another. I look at you and I know that in one way or another, you've been where I've been and you see things the way I do. You drank from the Red Bull just like I did. That is vital in dealing with our patients. Civilians may be very well-meaning and they may be incredibly skilled, but many times they do not have that automatic relational bridge when they sit down with a patient. The gentleman from the Missouri or the gentleman from the 101st Airborne, I don't think we would have gotten that deep that fast if it had just been a nurse or a doctor, a friend, and sometimes not even a spouse. So veterans need to be on the tip of the spear when it comes to taking care of patients because they trust you. They know you. They'll open up to you. They will share things with you that they many times have never shared with anyone before. So we like veterans to work in our volunteer program. Nationally, all hospice under Medicare and Medicaid is required to have at least 5% of volunteers on staff. I would love to see the proportion of that veterans-wise go up. The other thing that we do that we like your cooperation with is we formally recognize our veterans and what they've gone through. We've developed our own system of rituals and rites, which I'll be honest, I stole a lot of them from the Corps, that we use to create a moment where these patients can actually be acknowledged for what they did and share that with those who they're getting ready to leave behind. It's formally called a pinning ceremony. A veteran comes, there are, just like there are in any award ceremony, some overdone certificates. My CO always told me, yeah, that's really good notes. You can use it later to wrap a fish in because that's probably all the work that's in it. that it's the expression that we do it that's important. There's some pins that they receive. They receive a handmade blanket that's done by our volunteers. It's service specific. We bring a cake of their choosing, and just like you would at a Marine Corps birthday ball, we cut it with a saber. And many times it's really neat to watch them do that with their grandkids. Why am I doing this, Papa? Why are we doing it this? Can we do this again? This looks like fun. Well, we're doing this because I was at Chosin Reservoir, or I'm doing this because, or we're doing this because I was at Camp Lejeune, or I was at Norfolk, or I was at Lackland, or wherever it was. And it just primes this whole series of memory sharings, which we see as really essential, not only in helping this person make a good end, but setting up their family as they get ready to go into the bereavement cycle. They can hang on to the things that were essentially a part of this person. So those are the two things we would like your help with. We'd like you to be volunteers, or your constituents to be our volunteers. You got my card there. You can call me up at any time. I got absolutely no life, so you're gonna be getting me out and doing laundry or doing dishes. It wouldn't break my heart at all. You can call me directly. And the other thing is, we like veterans to be present from the community when we formally recognize these folks. I would like to close with one last question. I would like you to give serious thought, because Kindred is a part of Fishers, to what we can do for you. What can we do to support you in the many projects that look, to my mind, on first glance, is very worthwhile? We want to be a part of this community, and part of that means we have to serve our community. So please, call me up, let me know. We'll be there. We'll do anything we possibly can. Yeah, boss.
David, maybe a comment and a question. First, thanks for sharing that stuff. In a comment, I'll speak on personally. I'll be contacting you. I think that's wildly meaningful work. So I'm grateful for you for doing that sort of thing.
Thanks.
When you guys, when the veterans are talking, are you guys capturing those stories, audio or visual? I remember when I was a kid, I had a sign when I was, I think, in 3rd grade, to interview my grandparents who both served in World War II in the Navy. And I don't have that tape anymore, and I hate that. I wish I had that, because they opened up and they shared experiences. I remember them personally, but I don't have my grandfather's voice talking about when he was, in the Pacific, and I really wish I had that. Do you guys do that?
What we do, we're bound by HIPAA, so we're not allowed without permission to take any visual, audio, or recordings. We had a gentleman who was a crew chief on a 34 in Vietnam, and again, nobody knew this until we started talking about it. He was a part of Hornet when the Apollo missions were coming back, and it was his crew that brought the capsules back to the deck. We immediately turned around and got him to Ball State, to the program that Senator Lugar put up, and you can go and you can hear his story there now. So that's what we've been doing primarily, is talk to your family, get them and share it with them. If they want to record it, that's great. And for some of these folks, please go talk to Ball State or Purdue. Purdue also participates in that program to get it recorded.
If we can work a permission form of some sort for them to release their stories, I sit on the library board. I can talk to our librarian to see if they have some type of program where they could capture their story, and through some type of, however they, broach the HIPAA issue. But definitely something that the city of Fishers could record and just put in the library. They got seeds over there. They might as well have stories about veterans who served in the war.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a wonderful supplement to what we have no doubt heard as people talk about what they feel and sense when they walk around this area of the city and see the flags. They see the names of veterans on lamp poles and such. Eddie, I'm going to look at you just for a second, because I know that you and I haven't refreshed this conversation, but one of the pieces of technological improvement I want to implement is to supplement our Gold Star Family Monument with an audio capability where the families who want to contribute, starting with the people who were here on Memorial Day last year, say a few words. We give them some guidance, we just record it, and basically if you were sitting out here, you could go ahead and listen to what people had to say. So maybe this is a technology piece that, to record those types of things. Maybe we're looking at an archive of some sort.
And Fishers is getting ready to celebrate what, our bicentennial?
Sesquicentennial. Rolls off the tongue.
Was that 150 years?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and I know that we've got some special things that we're working on here for at the library. And they've got like a historian, a city historian who's putting together some information for the sesquicentennial.
Sounds like we're sitting right in the middle of a good idea. Okay, we have access to you, David?
Please, call me anytime.
Okay.
We're literally 2 miles away from here. And you've got my card. So, and if, again, if you need, being a veteran, into my fair share of talking public shows, if there's any way I can come and support events that you're doing, I would love to do that.
Do you have a pinning ceremony on the book, or how do you schedule them?
Generally, it's really funny right now with coming on with COVID. It used to be that we would have maybe 3 or 4 people. We would let the family schedule it. We did one in Muncie 2 months ago. We had 120 people. Everybody came. And it's because people are crazy to be with other people. So it turned into this whole. It was really cool. It was in a common room of one of the skilled nursing facilities over there, and you could see the younger vets were on the perimeter, and this was a Vietnam vet. He's in the middle, and he's surrounded by his friends, and the memory sharing just happening in real time. Sir, I want to thank you for your service. I know it wasn't easy, and that intergenerational dialogue is springing up. And then we're also building the support system for this family.
You let us know when you have the next one.
I may have one next Tuesday in Muncie.
Okay.
But I got your fancy card, your Air Force card, so I'll probably get one to you.
Thank you for being here and all this information. I appreciate it personally. Just as a side note, I told Tiff just a couple minutes ago as you were beginning to speak. You mentioned the gentleman that was on the very on September the 2nd, 1945. Both of my parents were in the military and were married at the Palace of Versailles on September 2nd, 1945.
Really?
Yes.
Lots of intersections. Lots of. Very
I
good.
just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
David, thank you.
Thank you for
You're
your.
certainly welcome to continue to stay here for the meeting as you look at your own calendar, but appreciate very much your presentation. And Tiffany, thank you very much for thinking into this lane the way that you have.
Thank you all.
Okay?
I'm gonna go fight sin and ignorance on
If you want to leave the shirt at the door, I'll take it home.
I'll have to.
I'll talk to you about where you got it from.
All right. Thank you all.
All right. Our next item of business, a Spark recap. I'll take lead on opening that up. I'll do this one. Thanks, David. See you later. Dave Hoffmaster is the founder and the creator of Hero Hut, which is literally a big tent that allows people of like minds and organizations of like minds to gather underneath the tent and be a one-stop shop for those agencies if anybody walks into that tent. They were going to be, and they were, a Spark participant. I guess they were in touch with you, or you were in touch with them.
Our Parks Department.
Our Parks Department. And there was an opportunity to, relatively short fuse, to join with them on the Saturday of Spark Fishers to participate right over there with the pinning ceremony, because Hero Hut is a partner with the Vietnam War commemoration. And David has done those before in many forms, keeping in mind that the commission's dedicated to getting thanks and welcome home to as many Vietnam veterans as possible at whatever level it occurs. But he is to Hero Hut what the mayor is to the city of Fishers when it comes to those type of events. So I spoke into that opportunity, and they turned to me and said, well, what's the program? How are we going to do this? And I just kind of pulled it together from our events. Sammy Davis, Medal of Honor recipient, an Indiana Hoosier, was there with his wife underneath Hero Tent with a table with their books and such. And it was to tee all this up, to encourage everyone who was in the sound of the PA system to take inventory of if you were a Vietnam veteran between 1955 and 1975, if you hadn't thought about it, to come forward when we give the signal and receive a thank you pin. And that is the essence of what this commemoration is about. Just as the mayor went to Home Depot, we don't care where it is, how it's happening, it's the idea of making that personal connection with as many vets as possible, Vietnam War vets. So, Sammy spoke, he played his harmonica, he talked about what it meant to him. His friends knew that he was alive and well when they heard him playing the harmonica. They were under attack in frequent circumstances, and it was a very, very freewheeling, natural sort of flow to it. And then Sammy and Dave went down forward, and I said, if you are a Vietnam War vet, please come forward and receive thanks and a handshake. And 3 people came forward, right out of the crowd. So that makes it a success. And then everybody retired to Hero Hut and it was over. That was, to the best of my knowledge, our only formal engagement with Spark Fishers this year. Went through the routine of talking to Matt and Vince about whether or not the Legion was going to be marching in the parade, that sort of stuff. I guess that was never really an option, except in my imagination. But that was the one thing that we did. Is that all right, Mackenzie? Is that what you would hope that we would have shared?
Anything for next year? Thoughts?
Yeah, well, maybe Tiffany.
I will tell you, Lawrence, that both VFW folks walked in
And we always had years past.
Okay.
Just for some reason, I don't know where the communication breakdown was. We didn't have a float this year. I don't know. I don't have a reason why.
Okay.
But we've always had a float before. We've done either riders on there, and revving our bike when it goes by, or we've done something that we just didn't this year. I don't know why, but I think we felt, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the talks I heard was that by the time we started, it was too late. I didn't realize we could have jumped in so late, and so just kind of like, well, we missed it.
We got it good.
Well, we can help with that.
Yeah.
So we can make sure that,
Okay.
you know,
The guy that has the $330,000 Bentley? I'll sit in the back seat. I'll grab Mackenzie, and she and Isaac can do it. But whatever we can do to sort out the visibility, not for the sake of it just being publicity, but it's what we represent. Okay? Excellent. Thank you. Country and Community Service Award. Determine the criteria. Thank you again for the Sagamore and for the Indiana Veterans Guidance Hall of Fame. We all know that we came this close to the opportunity to honor Woody Williams. And I will confess that I probably over-ignited the fire, because the definition of what is the community service piece, again, without guidance that we've created, because we just reacted to Wayne Caldwell, his name's on that monument. And I thought that might be sufficient to rally around that flagpole, and I might have overlit some expectations about possibilities, but I was always trying to make it seem as, hey, what do you all think about that? At the same time, it's going down. To their great credit, Elliot McKenzie said, let's establish some criteria. A well-developed criteria employed in a timely manner will cover a multitude of opportunities for us. And we have not done that because Wayne was a quick hit and along comes Woody. Emotionally, I believe we all want to do whatever we can with this award. But the nature of this award is that we want to keep it at a very strong, high standard of delivery. And for that reason, I suggested to the city, and Ashley and Mackenzie and Elliot worked on this, and the city made social media mention of the passing of Woody, and I felt very satisfied with the way that you all crafted that text. It was obviously military in nature. It was very appropriate. Well, okay. Next time, everybody's a little bit smarter about the spirit of it. But Elliot, as Mackenzie said, I thought that was a terrific gesture of support, and it probably was absolutely all that we really needed to do as a city. Because he was not, except for the name on your monument, in my opinion, related to our community, other than the fact that he is one of those overarching American heroes. George was very eloquent in his defense of why we should recognize this man, or people like him. Having said that, we backed off a little bit from the edge of urgency, and now we're in the position where we're going to go ahead and look at the Indiana Military Hall of Fame, the Sagamore, the Wabash, and come up with a straw man for criteria for our own award. I think last month I might have hinted toward Eddie that you were going to be talking to some point of contact. Outstanding. One of the two documents that we have in our possession. Eddie, may I ask you to go to that meeting with an eye toward our goal in mind? Go wherever the conversation leads you. We're looking at a document that has people who will align with this task as one of the things that we do. And could I ask you to pursue this a little bit and flesh it out some for us? Okay. Like everything else, the sooner we have that, and now I'm going to say the word again, a notebook with tabs in it that we're fleshing out, the sooner we just drop these things into as we encounter them. George, I hope that I've represented your thoughts well regarding Woody Williams. I give great credit to the fire in your belly and the propriety of your thinking. But I was tempered by the breadth of our team representing the city that says, don't misstructure this thing. Don't create something that is inconsistent with what we're going to be wanting it to be eventually until we define it. So
Well,
I want to thank you
just
for that.
hope that it didn't offend anybody or upset anybody, by my words. And I realized that I was pretty strong in my feelings about it.
As well you should be.
Absolutely. No offense, at least from my standpoint. A really well written email, and I think I said before, I mean, Woody's a million times more patriotic and deserving of anything than I will ever dream to be. But I think it's again our task to determine the criteria so that maybe we come to the table and say Woody fits into that, and we award it. That's
give it to him
possible,
in
right?
retrospect.
We determine the criteria. I would also, if I could,
Yes, sir.
suggest we also maybe think big about what the award is. So again, for speed and timing, we provided Wayne's spouse with brick, right? The brick prayer program is in existence and it's great. I know Eddie, you just bought 2 more for family members and loved ones. It's a great opportunity for residents, community to honor their families, their friends, and that sort of thing. If we want to just bring the country and community service award into that, that's fine. Or we can ideate here and say, we want the Country Community Service Award to be this physical token or a part of the wall at the nickel plate tunnel, or any number of things, or a separate space in the city, maybe it's not the new Geiswater Park or whatever, but we can dream kind of big here and say, this is what the criteria is, this is how we vote people into that award, and this is how we display it for the rest of the time in the city of Fishers. And the token we also provide to that individual or their loved one posthumously. So I think we should do both of those things. I would suggest that at least.
Thank you. And that also rolls into a commitment that I made to Wayne's widow in front of the public, that when we get ready to do whatever that is, wherever that papers is going to end up going, she wants to know about it and be there for it, and that is consistent with proper recognition, not only for her, but also going forward. So Eddie, thank you for shooting some WD-40 on that thinking, man, and let's not be afraid to inflate it, because we want it to be prestigious. Thank you very much, sir. Mackenzie, Elliot, is there anything else we ought to be talking about on that particular bullet? Good to go? Okay, thank you. Hamilton County Bicentennial. I'm ready to listen to somebody else talk.
Well, I had a
Thank you very much, Vince.
rather lengthy meeting with them.
Yep.
They are doing a lot of neat projects. They're the way they want to spread it around so that no county or no township has a bigger say on it. Each one's being assigned like basically a month that they're recognized. And they're putting a book together. The historian that's doing it is out of the library. They're looking for any kind of military stories, military significance, established vets, like Lowell Beaver for a good example. That you can tell a story that came from
Names on the post.
Right.
Right on.
That you can tell it came from the character, came from the area. And so they're looking for anything like that, any pictures, anything they can add to their book. They are selling space in the book, but also if you provide stories, will be documented there. And then I think they're not doing ours until October, I believe. I'll touch base on them again. It's been a little bit.
As far as the city of Fishers piece of that observance?
Yep.
Does Parks and Rec know that as our month?
So our communications team has been in contact with them since we're doing our 150th kind of during the same time. So I know Ashley is aware of that.
Okay.
Is there a timeline for when they want these stories submitted?
It's very short.
Okay.
I mean, it's quick coming up. I have all the documentation at home, and I wrote the bike today, and I realized I had it in there. But I can send it to you so they get home. But it's a pretty quick deadline for the book. That doesn't mean it won't get mentioned in all their social media and all their online stuff, but to get printed in the book, it's coming up pretty quick. So I will give you that date. But, I mean, they're doing good work. It's just they're covering a big area, and
Sure.
I like how they're trying to separate each area, because obviously, within the county, there are certain cities that would be bigger, but they don't want to forget the little towns. So if I go to my township, I think it's a good way to do it. But fortunately, we're not talking to them right now.
Did anything immediately resonate with you as you were sitting or talking or convening any time with these folks that said, man, that's something I got to bring to the fast, besides you were responsible for telling us what you just said?
Right. Well, I say no because the young lady that's in charge of it doesn't really have any events planned out yet for us. And so it was more like the first initial meeting to what can we do when it comes to this area in October. So she still doesn't have any events planned out yet.
Okay.
And so it's going to be just staying on her radar and talking to her about what we're doing, and then we'll find a place to plug in.
Okay.
But nothing to start, if that makes sense.
Would you be willing to continue to be our point of contact with this function?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And when there's a call for agenda items, if you feel that it's time for, hey, there's an update I would like to bring, would you drop it into the agenda at that time?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
I just tried to go last month just so we could at least get people talking,
Okay.
and I couldn't be here, so I apologize.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll stay on.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Vince. Thank you. Okay, next item of business, Veterans Day 2022 planning. November 11th, there'll be a national holiday that'll be observed on the day, November 11th.
That's Friday this year, right?
Right on. Right on. For purposes of planning, last meeting, it's in the minutes that we resolved and we've got it that it's going to be an indoor event going forward, so that takes the pressure off of the venue. A big piece of this is a guest speaker. Um, I respectfully say that in the past, before the FAST was established, it was the Parks and Recreation point of contact and me, and we were brainstorming, and a couple other people would be thinking, we'd go, let's put it together, there it is, bam. Now with the FAST, I respectfully offer to everyone that I have identified a person who I believe would be an excellent speaker, guest speaker for Veterans Day. I provided his information to you all. His name is Dick Chager. He is a remarkable gentleman, as genuine when you're in his presence as possible, and as dynamic and full of poise as you would expect a retired general to be if he were put on a dais somewhere. Yeah, yeah. That's okay then. We do have the first birthday. Okay, so let's go ahead and balance that out a little bit. Dick is a member of the Service Club of Indiana, excuse me, of Indianapolis, of which I'm a member, and yep. And Jim White, who is in North Carolina, just stepped down Monday from his year of presidency, and he said, I don't know that there's a better person in the world that can speak for our Veterans Day, because he's going to speak about another veteran that is very near and dear to his life. And I confirmed with him Monday. He says, it's still on my dance card if you want me. I don't. Please do it, Eddie. I don't want to steal anybody's prerogative to throw another hat in the ring.
I think normally we would try to get consensus on who should speak and so forth, you know. I think based upon who he is, timing as well, so forth, and we confirm him for our next one. And then plan ahead in advance the rest of the night. We'll plan ahead any more speakers way in advance. I think that he's an excellent choice, and I would gladly support him as well. You all honor him the first time. He's a great speaker, general officer, ran the service club. So I would say rather than spend weeks more trying to find somebody else, confirm him, and then spend time this rest of the year here to identify guys for the future.
Getting ahead
and ladies.
In each of our upcoming ceremonies.
Yes.
That sounds like a motion, but I know it wasn't, but it certainly is a word of guidance. Want to reflect upon what Eddie said in terms of the two-pronged approach?
Fully agree.
Okay. I'll use the term pushback. Any other thoughts about this? Because we're gonna step forward and move out smartly if we go forward with this.
So when I think about the people who come to this ceremony, there are a lot of just the veterans who are there. I mean, these are people that I've never seen before. A lot of them are older, formerly enlisted men. So do you feel that the story that this man's going to give is going to connect?
Absolutely. I know without a doubt. I've done research on the story, and yes, it will be,
Yes.
I think it will absolutely be a perfect match.
Fantastic.
Yep. Tiffany, thanks for the question. Any other thoughts on this? Then I will go ahead and say, by unanimous consent,
Make a motion.
that we go ahead and invite Dick Chager to be our guest speaker. I'll close that loop with him. Any dissension on that? We'll presume it's unanimous. 1, 2, love the motion, part of the activity of saying, let's get ahead of this. And I would say that for every event, and again, this will be something we flesh out, but there's nothing wrong with 6 months out, putting together a pool, chewing on it for a month, and then be done, because we're going to be in another cycle as soon as it happens. So we got plenty of opportunities, and if you've got somebody up your sleeve, and I love the fact that you said, and women, let's not even be afraid to think, how do we be reflective of the services that we are part of, okay?
On that note, we missed female Veterans Day, Women's Veterans Day.
I didn't even know it existed.
However, I did post in the Facebook about that.
Because Eddie is woman, so thank you. But, yeah, we did miss that.
My class was first female West Point, so
Yeah.
I'm very favor of the ladies and the candidates.
We do
Thanks
have our-
across the board for all the services.
So we do have a day.
Okay, now, in that vein, and looking back to what Elliot did for Woody Williams, a lot of this could be element of our own commission's communication plan using social media. I mean, just to make sure we got maybe an annual calendar, and we know what to sprinkle in on each one of these events.
Correct.
Okay, all right,
That's part of our strategic plan, I would imagine,
yeah,
correct?
yeah.
And so as I
haven't
think
read
about
that
that, I think we could probably sit down and kind of look at a calendar of the year and figure out what our big holidays are, what the city of Fishers does, and just kind of put together a straw man, if I could.
Sure, straw
For
person.
straw person, so
Uh-huh.
for, some of the things that we should be doing, that we
Yep.
can plan for in advance, that we know are gonna happen, and then other things as they come, but we should at least have some
Okay.
type of, annual marketing plan for the big holidays.
Fast member updates at the end. I've got an ace up my sleeve that will play right into your hand here, okay? Love it. Eddie, you were gonna say something?
Real quick, we have times while we're getting a location, on a volunteer location for us to use for more time, so I'll be at the, I'll buy at the Hospice Country Club, and we'll have a little eating area and just figure it out.
Thank you. What is our get out of here by time today? 4:15? 5? 4:15, okay, we'll make it. Okay, speaker, I'll be principal point of contact with the Parks and Recreation Department for planning the ceremony for this wiring diagram.
So this is under, it's not under Parks anymore.
Oh, no, it's city communication?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll be the principal point of contact, and that means you and I'll be talking a lot. Okay? Good? Elliot, do you have any inputs on this one from Veterans Day from the city's perspective?
No.
Okay, okay, cool.
I just wanted to say something, I know we voted to do it at Knowledge Services, I think, for the next meeting, for the Veterans Day, the
That's
indoor.
correct, using their 400-seat auditorium.
Correct, and I think that's wonderful. I wonder how many people we will lose just by the number of people who just walk in because it's at the Y. And I'm not trying to be.
Because of what?
Because it's at the Y,
Why no?
because it's
Well,
normally,
Actually not at the Y, it's usually here, and we have to move it to the Y.
okay,
And so I think just getting out in front of that, and then we'll of course have signage placed,
Okay.
like around City Hall, directing,
And the good part is it's a 5-minute drive, so you can come here a little early, get convenient.
And they technically, come early.
and then
so-
signage at the Y too, just letting them know that
Yeah.
it's not gonna be there. Okay,
It's
perfect,
a new pattern.
yes,
But if we're communicating ahead of time, we have a better contact with the
fantastic.
Okay, ace up the sleeve here. Now that we have this list, and we have said, if you have any additions or corrections to it, please make them known to Mackenzie within a week. That's for the purpose of this next thing that I want to say. Eddie and I and Elliot will, as quickly as possible in between this meeting and the next one, refine the selections for, among multiple people who said they will lead. We'll just tap somebody, we'll talk to them, we'll make sure we get that done. And then I'm going to ask those people, by the time we get to the August, September pair of meetings, is to bring forth some substance about what you feel from your perspective we do to start fleshing out these tasks that we are supposed to be performing. Okay, in other words, this document is our means to get to those ends, in my opinion, because now everybody knows how they're harnessed up and can sit down and creatively think. And that might be the type of workday meetings that each individual wants to go ahead and call within their own selected subcommittee. Why don't we all get together, something like that? People sit together at their home or whatever for 3 or 4 hours, and those are happening, there's 10 or 11 of them, and all of a sudden we've got some substance. Just want us to be fleshing this stuff out and know where we're going to go. And so if you're selected to be a leader, Army's saying, take charge and move out. Right on? Right on. Okay, fast member updates is intended to be anything else for the good of the order. Okay? Does anybody have anything that you've been thinking about that isn't on the agenda that you want to put out here in front of us? You moving on the Vietnam Wall? For example.
That process we talked about last meeting, it would not be for 23. It would be for 24.
Right on.
We've got all kinds of time. In fact, they're not even publishing anything for 24 yet.
Right on.
They're aware of it. I've contacted, the contact that I have, is well aware that we're not going to be, we have not presented, nor will we be presenting any, move forward to try to post.
In 23.
23.
Right on.
We will be at 24.
If we submit by, what is it, Memorial Day?
Traditionally, it's been Memorial Day. I have no reason to believe that.
Okay, so for Memorial Day 23, we have to have our offer ready to submit for 2024 for the calendar year that they slate the memorial to.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. That will be here fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have.
This is exactly the spot for it, George.
Any golfers here?
I golf a little bit.
Yeah.
I might be better than you.
Well, pardon me?
Okay. I'm kind of putting myself ahead of this a little bit. Britton Falls has an annual event every year, and it's called, basically, it's Tee It Up for Our Veterans. It's a golf outing, 144 positions available. We're just opening up to that now. I brought the brochures with me because I want you to understand that this is a Britton Falls thing. And I'm trying to get some clarification as to whether they're going to have outside people. And I'm told unofficially that they will allow people outside of Britton Falls to participate if there are openings. And this is basically, this is an application form. I'm going to pass it on because I just want you to see what we've got. The one issue I have with it is the day that it's going to be held is also the day we have our September meeting, September the 14th. I am going to play in this tournament for this reason. Because one, it's Britton Falls thing that is sponsored every year for veterans. To benefit the veterans, put it that way. The woman who started this, the trophy that goes to the winning team is in the name of her husband, who was a good friend of mine, and she's also my neighbor. And this is like the 6th or 9th year that we've had this golf tournament. And it raises money for the Indy Vet House and other veterans causes. I'm going to attend it because I want everybody there to know about the Fisher's Armed Services Commission.
Okay.
And see if I can generate some interest in looking forward to where we can help them and they can help us. Yeah, I'm the only member of this commission that lives in Britton Falls. And I happen to believe very much in this particular cause. And I offer the opportunity, if anybody else wants to go in on a foursome with me, that we can do that.
Okay.
I'll need to know relatively soon.
If it's a bad foursome as far as skills, I'll play. If it's a good foursome, we want to win.
Yeah.
We want to give Chagers a scratch golfer.
We've had some ringers in the past. I've never been one of them. And
You're
I
just
never
a
will
dog
be.
over there banging, right?
Well, especially in purgatory, you guys are glutton for punishment there. That's a lot of
Okay, so this is a promo moment
Yes.
that you are asking us to consider, at least amongst us as friends, to consider being a foursome, making it happen to go out here and support this cause.
Yes.
Is that it? And you're showing the flag, and that immediately makes me look to Mackenzie and say, hey, wouldn't they look good in a white or a black golf shirt? We want to talk about the new shirts real
We're
quickly?
getting white also, they just weren't in time for
Yay.
for Spark, but yes.
Okay,
They're gonna be white, same logo?
Same logo.
Okay.
and when will they be available?
I think she said by the end of July.
Okay, you'll let us know that we can come by and pick them up at the city information desk before it's written
Before
down.
it's closed down.
Before it's written down, okay.
Not-
And how about business cards?
I've not made progress on that. Let me circle back with Gary on that.
Okie dokie. That's so that we have something to give to people when we're talking to them, okay? It's part of the administrative infrastructure. Anything else under fast member updates for the good of the order? Anything else? Closing that down. Upcoming events, Veterans Day. This is not a mystery. This is the next big function that we've got, but it won't be the first or the last function that we have where we might have our name on it as service birthdays come along and we fine tune this communication strategy, okay? And we'll talk about that with Ashley and we'll be hand in glove. Thank you very much. Any other things on your plate? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Made, second, multiple seconds, all opposed?